We need to fight back for our public lands, parks, and trails. I'm going to show you some simple things that you can do on a personal level that will have impacts on a local, community, and national level. And hopefully, if enough of us do these small, simple things, we can really make a difference. Because if you've been in the outdoors for a while, you probably know that trails don't maintain themselves, and parks, national forests have traditionally been underfunded, even despite what's happened recently. And this all happens despite the fact that there's more and more people visiting the outdoors. The National Park Service just released their stats for 2024. It was a record-breaking year. More people visited the national parks than ever in the history of the parks. You might not have seen that because the Park Service put out an internal memo saying not to talk about it, which is unfortunate because this is a $1.2 trillion part of our economy here in the United States. That outpaces oil and gas, that outpaces mining, it affects local communities, it affects the economy, it affects tourism. There's all kinds of benefits from having a healthy outdoor economy and healthy public lands here. So let me show you what you can do, and hopefully we can turn the tide here in terms of the lands, trails, and parks getting a little bit more love. Now, when I go hiking, I always bring a Ziploc bag with me. I pick up trash along the way, and sometimes it's really gross. And that's where a brilliant invention from a local hiker named John McShane came in. He invented a device you attach to your existing trekking poles. There is a grabber on one, and there is a collector bag on the other. At the top, there's these two little levers. You simply squeeze the lever, pick up trash, put it in the collector bag, and you can easily pick up trash without getting messy. I was able to sit down with John in a local park and talk about how he came up with this idea and how it can actually make a difference.
I'm John McShane, and I'm based in San Diego, California, and I'm an avid hiker. I enjoy taking advantage of all the beautiful natural spaces around this way. And the problem I found that I noticed is that litter cleanup is just way too tedious, way too inconvenient for hikers, such that a lot of hikers just choose that they'd rather not do it. And I find myself in this situation all the time where I'm on a hike, I see some litter in front of me, and I kind of start debating with myself of whether or not I'm going to actually pick it up, right? It's maybe too dirty. I don't have a place to put it. And I think for a lot of us, we just think to ourselves, it's not really my problem. I came here to enjoy myself. And so I'm just going to keep carrying on with my hike and I'm going to enjoy it. And the problem is that so many hikers make this decision constantly, and it becomes a habit that you might have 100 hikers walk past the same piece of litter and just not do anything and just not pick it up. And I've noticed just from my own observations, I might go on a hike for like 3-4 hours and I come back and the same litter that I saw when I got there is still there. And I'm thinking to myself, like, who's picking this up? If not me, I'm someone who really cares about it. If I'm not picking it up, then who is? And so to me, there's just such an unrealized potential of all these people that if the act of picking up litter was just a little bit more convenient, maybe more people would be doing it. And so that's kind of when I got on the thought process of, okay, what if there were better tools for hikers to pick up litter? Something where it's not even just easier to pick it up, but it's maybe even enjoyable. Maybe you actually look forward to it. Maybe you encounter litter and you say, oh, this will only take me 2 seconds and I already have a place to put it. And maybe it'd even be kind of fun to try to pick up this weird shaped object or something. I don't know. And so that's kind of what got me on the thought process of this whole thing. Yeah, so it really came from when I was visiting Yosemite National Park for the first time. And coming from the Midwest, I'm from the north suburbs of Chicago. I didn't have a lot of access to mountains and national parks growing up. So I'd sort of built up this image in my head of what Yosemite was going to be like. And sort of it's the pinnacle of, natural beauty in the US. And when I got there, it's not that it wasn't beautiful, but it was just juxtaposed by so much litter. And mind you, this was in springtime of 2021. So it was very much still middle of COVID era. So I was seeing a lot of face masks. I was seeing a lot of, tissues and just all the usual stuff. But you really especially didn't want to touch anything because everyone was afraid of getting COVID. And so I was noticing as I was hiking around, and I like to hike around with trekking poles, and I was poking litter left and right, just thinking to myself, I'm like 90% of the way to picking this up, but I'm not actually doing anything about it. I'm just letting it sit there. And one thing to mention too is like this litter, it wasn't even just on the trails. It was at visitor centers where, within like a 5-foot radius of a garbage can, there's a bunch of litter that no one wants to touch. And it's only going to take one gust of wind to just like push it somewhere else. And so that's kind of where the initial idea came in. I was thinking, okay, what if I just had a little grabber arm on the end of my pole? And then another observation I had was I'm looking around at other hikers and I'm realizing probably about half these people are hiking with trekking poles. That's not something I'm used to seeing back in Illinois. But it was something I noticed, and I thought, okay, well, what if we could make something that would retrofit onto trekking poles so that anyone who already owns trekking poles could just attach this on. You don't need some like crazy standalone gadget. And so that would sort of unlock the potential, so to say, of all these people who maybe could then pick up litter who otherwise wouldn't. And so that's kind of what started this whole thing. I bought myself a 3D printer. I have a mechanical engineering background, so I got to work on prototyping. And to be honest, it was really just for me at first. I just thought this is something I would use. Maybe there's a couple others, but I wasn't really thinking of launching it into a business. But eventually the prototype got to a point where I said, this is really good. People really like this. And I think it could go somewhere. Not everyone hikes with 2 poles. Sometimes you're on a hike that's just not as intense and you're thinking, I don't really need 2 poles. I might just want 1. And so the idea is that when you encounter litter, you would take the tongs out of their little pouch and you go ahead and you still have to bend over, but you can just pick up the litter. You can just throw it right into the collector and put the tongs right back into the pouch. This little pouch covers up the tongs so that you don't have to worry about whatever's on the tongs isn't going to rub off onto you. You don't have to worry about it getting on your stuff. And when it comes time to clean off that pouch, the pouch is easily removable from the rest of the setup. And so you can just throw it in the wash with your other things, take care of that. And you sort of never have to worry about touching the grossness of this. Thing about litter, right, is that it feels like just such a huge heaping issue that you can't possibly put a dent in. Why am I going to go pick up 2 cigarette butts when I know there's thousands of them out there? But a statistic that really stuck with me, there's a nonprofit called Keep America Beautiful, and they did a study back in 2020. They estimated about 50 billion pieces of litter on U.S. roadways and waterways. When you do the math, you find that that's only 152 pieces per person. And so now you start to think, okay, this is actually something somewhat attainable. Like if I could pick up 152 pieces, say in a year, and so did everyone else, we could all make a huge impact. And another way to put this into perspective is, let's just say you're going on a hiking trail, just picture your favorite trail. And let's just say you pick up only 1% of all the litter that you found. Out of every 100 pieces, you just picked up 1. But what if the next 99 hikers behind you picked up the same amount? Now it starts to feel like, okay, actually, we could all do something about this. We just need as many of us to act as possible.
If you want to get your hands on one of these CleanTrek devices or just want to learn more, I'll put a link on the screen. Just follow that. I will keep that updated to John's latest and greatest webpage or whatever it is. It's going to start with a Kickstarter and then hopefully onto selling products online or maybe in a retailer. Who knows? Whatever happens, follow that link and you will know what's going on. If you're here in the States and you don't use AllTrails, use AllTrails. It's the most popular hiking app here in the United States. It's got millions of hiking tracks recorded in it from users recording their hikes. It's got millions of trip reports, trail reports in there. And AllTrails did something really clever. They started something called the Public Lands Program that allows land managers like Park Services free access to the data. They just have to create an account here and they can see which trails have the most, users, most traffic based on actual recordings, actual data. And they have access to the trip reports for those trails on there. So it's important for a couple reasons. First, if you are going out there and you encounter some kind of a danger on the trail, you can leave a trip report and the land manager will see that and will be able to address that. That'll come to their attention. And also, if you're putting your trips in there, they can see which trails are getting the most traffic, and they can use that data to potentially get funding for those trails. And there's a case study on the AllTrails Public Lands website that shows a Park Service that did just that. So, data is harder to argue with if you're trying to get funding or try to address certain things for the outdoors. So even if you're using a different app or using a watch, connect your account to AllTrails. Upload your GPX files if you have to, get a free account, and all of that data is going to help the land managers really understand what's happening and hopefully get more funding or, address issues that are happening out on the trail. Another cool aspect of the Public Lands Program with AllTrails is that the land managers can go on there and correct the trails if they're maybe not in the right place because the user recorded it. They can correct the official trail for the official hike page for that. And they can also put alerts in there like trails closed or dangers along the trail, which I think is great. I see more and more land managers using this. I've talked to a land manager who uses this and loves it. So, participating in this, even if you're not necessarily an AllTrails user, can help, get the data out there that's important to these people who take care of the trails. The other thing you can do is actually fix the trails yourself. Now, most of the trail work here in the United States is done by volunteers, usually in conjunction with the land manager, like the Forest Service. One of those groups is the Lowelifes Respectable Citizens Club. They've done some great trail work here in Southern California. I spoke with Rob Petterson about how you can volunteer and what that experience is like.
Hi, I'm Rob Petterson, the founding board member and secretary at the Lowelifes Respectable Citizens Club. We steward trails for the U.S. Forest Service on the Angeles National Forest in the San Gabriel Mountains. And we steward multi-use trails for the benefit of everyone. I'm personally a mountain biker, but I also hike and backpack. In the Forest Service in general and on the Angeles National Forest in LA specifically, the agency, the Forest Service, doesn't really have staff for trail crew any longer. Maybe they did a couple decades ago, but not these days. So Lowelifes has a volunteer agreement with the Forest Service. So we're officially sanctioned to be out there doing work. We coordinate which trails that we want to work on that they need help on. And so it's all above board. We work in concert with those guys. They know when we're out there for safety and other reasons. And it's what they call a partnership. So we are an official Forest Service partner. We encourage anyone to come out and join Lowelifes for a day or a weekend on the trails. No education or expertise or certifications are necessary. Obviously, if you come more than once, you're going to learn more, but we'll train you from scratch. All you really need to do is be physically able to be out there in the backcountry for a full 8 hours or a full weekend. When I began a few years ago, I had no training. Our public lands and our trails in specific need volunteer help. As much as the work that Lowelifes does, thousands of hours a year, we need more help, and your public lands need more help. Other trail crews besides us always need more volunteers. It feels good. There's a lot of camaraderie among the crew. It's a great way to meet folks, whether you want to find new hiking or backpacking partners or people who want to do overnight bikepacking routes. Great way to meet friends. And it's a great way to feel like you're making an impact. I've always had an office job sitting at a desk on a computer for my entire career. So being able to get out there with a shovel or a hoe or a pair of loppers and see inch by inch, mile by mile, plant by plant that you're making a difference, it's very gratifying. And so I often see volunteers who come out and they've never been out before. They've perhaps never volunteered for any nonprofit before, but they get obsessed. They'll come back next month, next week. It's important to know that volunteers are often the main folks taking care of these lands. So it's really on us. There are public lands. We need to take care of them, whether it's remembering not to litter the trails, maybe starting to pick up that litter, or going to that next level and getting active with a trail stewardship organization like Lowelifes. You can make a difference, and it's on all of our shoulders to take care of our public lands because it's really just us out there maintaining them. If you'd like to know more about what Lowelifes is doing in the Angeles National Forest, hit us up on Instagram. Our account is Lowelifes, LOWE, Lowelifes RCC on Instagram. Also, lowelifesrcc.org is our website. Sign up for email updates and we'll let you know how you can get out and volunteer. And I encourage everyone to contact their local park, or especially at the federal level, contact their ranger district, ask how to volunteer, or if you're already active with hiking or running or mountain biking club in the area, ask them how you can get out and do trail work. If they're not doing trail days themselves, they can generally point you to who is. And it's really just a matter of picking up the phone or hopping on Instagram or Facebook and just finding out who's out there doing it. Because even if you haven't noticed, chances are there's a crew operating in your area.
So like Rob said, just contact the park, find out what volunteer organizations are working with them. If you can't volunteer your time, you can always volunteer some money to these groups to help them buy the tools they need to fix the trails. One of the things I want to mention is I have this little compact handsaw here. This came recommended to me by somebody who works for the Forest Service. It's a little tool I bring with me in my pack, and if I find some overgrowth or whatever, I can just cut it back as I go. I'll put a link to this underneath the video if you want to pick up one for yourself. One of the easiest things you can do for the outdoors is vote for people who support the outdoors. The outdoors is a bipartisan issue. If you look at a lot of legislation in support of the outdoors, it is bipartisan. And you can also join an advocacy group or advocacy groups to help get the word out about different outdoor issues. And one of those groups is called the Outdoor Alliance. And I spoke with Nicole Brown about what they do, how they help the outdoors, and what you can do to get involved.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I am from Outdoor Alliance. We are an organization that unites the voices of outdoor enthusiasts to conserve America's public lands. I think right now is a really good time to find common ground with people. And I think if that's going to happen anywhere, it's on public lands. We have found that, a love of public lands across political spectrum. And a really good example of that is a package of legislation that we passed last year called the Explore Act. We're finding that packaging up these smaller pieces of legislation, having something for bikers, having something for paddlers, having something for climbers, it actually really makes the lawmakers come together because they realize that they're listening to a group of constituents. And that is far more successful than just trying to pass like one single thing for one single rec type, which is what makes us so successful at Outdoor Alliance is we represent the voice of the entire outdoor recreation community, no matter how it is that you're getting outdoors. Outdoor recreation contributes $1.2 trillion to the U.S. economy. That's more than oil and gas and mining. And obviously, we're a way more sustainable industry over time. For every $1 invested in outdoor recreation infrastructure, it generates a $14 return. And those sound like just numbers, but when I think about those numbers, I think about, families planning a trip to a national park or going camping and the dollars that they spend, going through what we call gateway communities to reach these destinations and the importance of getting to know the people at the places that you love, being a voice, not just for yourself, standing up for the things that you love and that are important to you, but are also important to your neighbors. I think that one of the most interesting things about if you have come to love your public lands, you also come to realize that they also need stewardship. And that stewardship for a lot of people is a full-time job. And a lot of these agencies where those jobs exist, they don't have enough people to keep up with the demand that we are putting on these places. If you are someone who loves public lands, maybe instead of asking, why do we need staff and people, maybe volunteer for a cleanup day. And that's a really, really good opportunity to learn about a place from someone who knows it the best. And then it just imprint in your mind of, oh, wow, these places need people. They need people like me, and they need people who are, connected to them that are close to those communities. Writing your lawmakers through our website takes 2 minutes. And it's proven to be really effective. We're running a very visible campaign right now around agency staffing, and we are hearing back from lawmakers that the amount of outdoor recreationists that have written them, they're feeling the pressure. So when we all move together on an issue that's very present and very timely, lawmakers do tend to listen. Getting the result from that might take a little while, but listening to people like you and me, their constituents, it is their job. So we have a whole page on our website called the Take Action page that has every single issue that we're dealing with with lawmakers. And filling out any one of those actions takes just 2 minutes.
There's other groups that you can take action with in addition to Outdoor Alliance. I'll put links to some underneath the video. And if you have other ones that you think I should include, leave a comment. I will pin them to the top because whether you're a hiker, hunter, fisherman, whatever it might be, there are groups out there hopefully advocating for your interests and the public land's interests. This is a $1.2 trillion economy. It's not just about, tree hugging. It's about people's livelihoods. And the other thing you can do, obviously, is call your representative. There's sites like 5 Calls that make this easy. And again, vote for people who care about the outdoors and see the importance of it, and treat this maybe with the respect and importance that it should get. There's obviously many other things you could do, but I think if enough people do these simple things, it can really have an impact. But you can get creative, and this is where I wanted to share a story about a supporter of mine named Jody, who started making those signs that you see at the summits.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jody Serra. I live in Southern California. Obviously, I work here as a broadcast engineer in live productions, but really I spend all my free time outdoors, hiking and enjoying nature. Okay, so yeah, I started creating those summit signs with some friends. Started with a few signs. I think the first one we did was Mount Eilip. It was right before all the closures happened. And then it really snowed. So we didn't see anything for that sign for like 2 months. We thought it was gone. Someone took it or nature had taken it with it. And then it started popping up on Instagram, which is where you can connect with us at pcard125. And we were like, oh my gosh, the sign is there and people are so excited about it. And really, even for me, when we reach a peak, it's like a celebration, right? You made it, you got up there. And I think finding a sign up there is kind of like putting a pin in that celebration. Like, yes, I got up there. And so I get a lot of comments like, thank you what you do for the community. And we wish there was a sign like this on every peak. And so it's been really, really rewarding. And our mission really is, we want to make someone happy, right? We want to put a smile on your face. We want to put some good out there. And that's exactly what those signs accomplish.
A big thank you to Jody, and a big thank you to everyone who helps the trails in every which way. I interviewed a lot of different people to make this video, and I realized there's so many different things going on, so many people behind the scenes that are making trails, work in ways that we just don't see. So thank you to everyone. If you have ways that you like to help the trails, or you've seen people help the trails, or other people can help, leave a comment so that everyone can go through there and help in a way maybe that suits their strengths or abilities. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you out on the trails.